In the quiet of the ancient desert, long after the stars had taken their place in the sky, a man stood staring into the heavens, his heart full of questions. His name was Abram. He had followed God's voice out of his homeland, leaving behind everything familiar. He had obeyed without a full map, driven by a divine promise that he would become a great nation. But years had passed, and Abram still had no child. His wealth had grown. His name had become known. He had built altars and offered sacrifices. But in the silence of night, his heart ached. Who would inherit it all? His wife Sarai remained barren. The dream of a family, the legacy God had spoken of, seemed impossibly far away. One evening, the word of the Lord came to him in a vision. "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward." But Abram replied with the honesty only found in deep prayer, "Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless? The only heir I have is Eliezer of Damascus. You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir." It wasn't defiance, it was heartbreak. Abram believed in God, but his understanding was growing weary. The promise didn't seem to match his reality. Then came God's answer, bold and clear. "This man will not be your heir. A son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir." Then the Lord took him outside and said, "Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. So shall your offspring be." In that moment, something deeper than sight filled Abram's faith. The Bible says, Abram believed the Lord, and it was credited to him as righteousness. That belief, simple yet profound, became the foundation of something eternal. He didn't see the child. He didn't know the details. But he believed the God who had promised. Then the Lord reminded Abram of his history with him. "I am the Lord, who brought you out of Ur to give you this land." Abram, still seeking assurance, asked, "Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it?" God didn't rebuke his question. Instead, he responded with a covenant. God told Abram to bring specific animals: a heifer, a goat, a ram, a dove, and a young pigeon. Abram cut them in two, arranging the halves opposite each other, a traditional way of sealing a covenant in the ancient world. Then he waited. As the sun set, Abram fell into a deep sleep. A thick and dreadful darkness came over him. In that darkness, God spoke again. He revealed not only the promise of a son, but the broader story. Abram's descendants would be strangers in a foreign land. They would be enslaved and mistreated for 400 years. But God would judge that nation, and afterward they would come out with great possessions. And Abram, he would live a long life, dying in peace. Then something incredible happened. A smoking firepot and a blazing torch, symbols of God's presence, passed between the pieces of the sacrificed animals. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, "To your descendants I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates." This moment wasn't just about one man having a son. It was about God setting the course of salvation history. It was about faith being stronger than time, stronger than delay, stronger than doubt. God had promised Abram a son, and he meant it. But the road ahead would not be without struggle. Even after this divine moment, Abram and Sarai would wrestle with waiting. They would try to take matters into their own hands. They would learn that God's timing was not their timing. Yet still, God would be faithful. This story teaches us something crucial. Faith is not about having all the answers, it is about trusting the one who does. Abram believed before he saw, and God honored that belief. In fact, Abram's faith would ripple through generations. Centuries later, Paul the Apostle would write, "Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness," using this very story as the foundation of Christian faith. Abram's moment under the stars became a model for all who dare to believe when nothing makes sense, when hope seems delayed, when the world tells you it is too late. So when you find yourself asking, God, where is the promise? Remember Abram looking up at the stars. Remember the voice of God saying, so shall your offspring be. Remember that faith doesn't always give you the answer immediately, but it always leads to the one who does.